I never believed in love at first sight. It always sounded like something out of movies, too poetic, too dreamy for the chaos of real life. Until that rainy Tuesday afternoon when he walked into my cafe, soaked to the bone, carrying nothing but a small duffel bag and a silence so deep, it echoed. My name is Alina. I run a small cafe on the corner of Rosewood Street in a quiet New England town. Kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where autumn leaves dance on sidewalks and where hearts, once broken, quietly try to heal. That day had started like any other, slow, drizzly, and scented with fresh cinnamon rolls. But something in the air felt different, like the universe was holding its breath. And then he walked in. He didn't speak. Not a word. Just looked around, his eyes scanning the wooden shelves lined with old novels and mismatched mugs. His hair clung to his forehead and his coat dripped water onto the mat, but his presence, it was as if time itself had paused to let him in. Would you like something warm? I asked gently. He nodded once. Coffee? I offered. Another nod. I handed him a towel and motioned to the empty seat by the fireplace. He settled there, still silent, his eyes locked on the flickering flames. When I brought him the coffee, he looked up for the first time. His eyes were a shade of green I'd never seen before, deep, forest-like, hiding 1,000 unsaid stories. Thank you, he finally said. His voice was low, almost raspy, as if unused for days. You're welcome, I replied, trying not to stare. Cafe had a few regulars that day, but no one paid him much attention. To them, he was just another traveler. But something in me knew he wasn't just passing through. An hour passed. Then two. He just sat there, occasionally sipping his coffee, occasionally glancing out the fogged-up window. I tried not to wonder about him, but my curiosity wouldn't rest. At closing time, I hesitated before asking, "Do you have somewhere to go tonight?" He looked up, eyes soft but guarded. Not really. There was something so vulnerable in his tone. Not lost, but not found either. I have a spare room upstairs, I offered before I could stop myself. It's nothing fancy, but it's warm and dry. He looked at me like he wasn't sure if he should accept, like he'd forgotten how to trust. But after a long pause, he nodded. Thank you, he said again. That night, as I closed the cafe and listened to the rain hit the windows, I couldn't stop thinking about him. He came in silence, but something about him was already echoing through my heart. The next morning, I found him sitting by the cafe window, staring out into the morning mist like he'd been awake for hours. He still hadn't told me his name. He hadn't said much of anything. But somehow, his silence wasn't awkward. Felt peaceful. I brewed 2 cups of coffee and set one down in front of him. You like mornings? I asked, trying to break the ice. He took a sip and nodded. They feel honest. It was such a simple answer, but it lingered in the air like poetry. He had a way of speaking that made every word feel meaningful, like even the pauses held weight. I'm Alina, I said finally, hoping he'd return the favor. He hesitated, then met my eyes. Nathan. Nathan. Just a name. But the way he said it, I felt like he'd gifted me a part of himself. Over the next few days, Nathan became a quiet fixture in the cafe. He helped stack chairs at closing, washed dishes without being asked, and sometimes just sat silently near the fire reading one of the old books from the shelf. He didn't talk much, but he listened. And in a world that's always shouting, being heard in silence felt like magic. I caught myself watching him more than I should. His hands, steady and calloused. His posture, slightly guarded, as if life had taught him to always be ready to leave. And those eyes, they always looked like they were searching for something. One evening, as I was locking the door, I found him sitting outside under the porch light, sketching something in a small notebook. You draw? I asked, surprised. He looked up and gave a soft shrug. Only when I can't find the words. I moved closer and peeked over his shoulder. It was a pencil sketch of the cafe, every detail captured perfectly, down to the crack on the window pane and the flowers I always forgot to water. "It's beautiful," I whispered. He smiled. "It's peace." We sat there in silence for a long time. The only sound was the occasional chirp of crickets and the distant hum of passing cars. I wanted to ask him about where he came from, why he looked so worn, why his silence felt so loud, but I didn't. Not yet. Sometimes questions push people away. Instead, I asked, "What made you come here?" He didn't look at me, just stared at the stars. I was trying to disappear. But maybe I ended up somewhere I was supposed to find. Something fluttered inside my chest. A warmth I hadn't felt in years. He didn't say anything else that night. But when we stood to head back inside, he looked at me and said softly, "Thank you for not asking too much." And I understood. Sometimes love doesn't begin with words. Sometimes it begins with presence, with patience, with quiet. And Nathan? He was the quiet that calmed every storm I'd forgotten I had. A week had passed since Nathan arrived, yet it felt like I'd known him for much longer. He was still reserved, still wrapped in mystery, but his presence had quietly stitched itself into the rhythm of my life. Every morning, he opened the cafe with me. Every evening, we shared coffee by the fire, sometimes exchanging a few soft words, other times letting the silence speak for us. But I knew something was buried deep inside him, something heavy. One evening, after a long day of pouring lattes and wiping down counters, we sat together in the backyard under the amber hue of string lights. The air was thick with the scent of fallen leaves and wood smoke. Nathan looked more restless than usual. His fingers tapped nervously on his coffee cup, and his gaze never settled. "You okay?" I asked gently. He paused. Then, as if the words had been waiting for the right moment, he said, "There's something I need to tell you." I nodded, encouraging him to go on. "I wasn't just passing through," he began, voice low. "I left something behind, or rather someone." My heart tensed, but I didn't interrupt. "A year ago, I was engaged," he continued. Her name was Lila. We were planning a life together. Big dreams, a new city, all of it. Then one morning, I woke up to a letter. No explanation, no goodbye. She was gone. I watched him carefully. The pain in his eyes wasn't fresh. It was the kind that had been lived with, wrestled with, but never fully healed. "I blamed myself," he whispered, "for not seeing the signs, for not being enough. I stopped painting, stopped smiling, stopped feeling like myself. I left everything behind and just wandered." "Nathan," I said softly, placing my hand gently over his. "I didn't come here to find someone," he said. "But then you didn't try to fix me. You just let me be. That's something no one's ever done." His voice cracked, and he quickly looked away. I squeezed his hand. "You don't have to carry it all alone." "Not here." He nodded, but I could see the battle still inside him. The fear of trusting again, of being broken again. "I don't want to hurt you," he murmured. "You haven't," I replied. "In fact, you've healed something in me too." That night, we didn't go back inside for hours. We sat beneath the stars, close but quiet. For the first time, I saw the storm beneath his silence, the brokenness, the fear, the aching heart. But I also saw the man who was trying to put himself back together. And somehow, piece by piece, I realized I was falling for him. Not the idea of him, not the hope of what he could become, but the raw, quiet, imperfect man sitting beside me. The first snow came early that year, a soft, whispering kind that blanketed the town like a dream. The world outside felt hushed, like it was holding its breath. Inside the cafe, the fire crackled gently, casting golden flickers across the walls. Nathan had started smiling more. Not the polite kind, but the kind that reached his eyes. He was still quiet, still reserved, but his silence no longer felt like a shield. Felt like a safe place now. One I wanted to live in. That night, we closed the cafe early. The snow had thickened and the streets were quiet. I brewed us hot chocolate and we sat by the window, watching the snowflakes drift lazily under the streetlight. He looked at me with a softness I hadn't seen before. "You've made this place feel like home." I felt my breath hitch. "I'm glad you feel that way." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Do you ever wonder why some people walk into your life like a whisper but leave echoes that stay forever?" I turned to him, heart racing. "Yes. I wonder that every time I look at you." He blinked, startled. Then, slowly, a small, shy smile appeared on his face. "I was so afraid to feel again," he admitted. "But with you, it doesn't feel scary. It feels safe." There was a silence between us, not awkward, not tense. Just full. Full of everything unspoken. I reached over and brushed a snowflake from his hair. He didn't pull away. "You don't have to say anything," I whispered. "I feel it too." He leaned forward, hesitantly at first, as if waiting for permission. And then our foreheads touched. My hands found his, fingers threading together like they were meant to. His eyes searched mine, and in that moment we weren't two strangers trying to forget our pasts. We were two hearts finally brave enough to be seen. When our lips met, it wasn't fireworks. It wasn't rushed or dramatic. It was quiet, gentle, like two souls exhaling. He pulled back slowly, eyes glistening. "I don't know where this will lead. I'm still healing." "So am I," I replied. "But maybe we can heal together." That night, we didn't talk much. We didn't need to. We just stayed wrapped in a blanket by the fire, his head on my shoulder, my fingers tracing slow circles on his back. For the first time in a long while, I felt whole. Not because he filled something in me, but because he reminded me of what I'd forgotten I was still capable of feeling. Of loving. Of hoping. He had come in silence. But tonight he stayed with all his heart. Winter melted into spring like a slow sigh. The snow disappeared, the flowers returned, and with them a warmth I hadn't felt in years. Nathan stayed. What was meant to be one night in my spare room turned into days, weeks, then months. He never said it aloud, but I think he feared jinxing it, this peace he'd found, this stillness between us. We never rushed anything. There were no declarations, no grand promises. Just small moments stitched together. A touch here, a look there, laughter echoing through the kitchen when I'd burn toast or spill coffee. But life has its way of testing joy. One rainy evening, strangely similar to the day he first arrived, Nathan sat across from me, fingers tracing the rim of his mug. He looked unsettled. "I got a letter," he said quietly. "From Lila." The name hit like a stone I didn't know still lived in my chest. "She wants to meet. She says she's sorry. That she was scared and ran, but now she wants closure. Maybe more." I tried to keep my voice steady. "What are you going to do?" He looked at me with those deep, searching eyes. "I don't know. I think I need to see her. Not because I want to go back, but because I need to let her go completely." I nodded. "Then go. Do what your heart needs." He looked almost surprised. "You're not angry?" "I'm scared," I admitted. But love isn't about holding someone back. It's about letting them be free, even if it hurts. He stood, walked over, and knelt beside me. "I'm not running, Alina. I just need to close the last door before I walk through this one with you." He kissed my forehead. "I'll be back." And then he left. Days passed. Then a week. I tried not to let the fear take over. I kept the cafe running. I laughed with my customers. I watched the sunset from the porch, hoping. And then he returned. One afternoon, just as the sky began to blush with evening light, the bell above the door chimed. He stood there, same bag, same eyes, same silence, but this time his smile was full. "She said she understood," he told me. And I told her my heart already belongs somewhere else. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. He walked over, took my face in his hands, and whispered, "I came here trying to disappear, but I found you instead. I found myself." We didn't need more words. That night I wrote in my journal, something I hadn't done in a long time. Came in silence, but he stayed with love. And even if the day comes when he must leave, I'll know he never truly left. 'Cause his love lives in every quiet corner of my heart.